You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
You are listening to the news on Africa Business Radio. Here are the headlines. In era to deepen financial inclusion. Buhari emerges president of Africa's Great Green Wall. Nairobi Securities Exchange launches day trading to boost liquidity. Alibaba to revamp e-commerce business. Details of these stories and more after the break. I am Chukunonso Modi. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has put the amount spent on subsidising petrol between January and October 2021 at 1.03 trillion naira. The NNPC says it will deduct its October 2021 value shortfall of 199 billion naira from its November 2021 proceeds meant for sharing at the December 2021 Federation Accounts Allocation Committee meeting. The oil firm referred to its subsidy spending as under recovery, as it had repeatedly stated that it had no authorisation by the National Assembly to pay subsidy. The president of Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Dr. Bayo Olugbemi, says the INERA is part of measures to deepen financial inclusion and integrate millions of unbanked Nigerians into the banking system. Olugbemi noted that while the modality for the operation of the central bank digital currency was being fine-tuned, the launch of the electronic currency was a step in the right direction. He says, equally worthy of note is the improvement, though slight, being witnessed in the exchange rate of the naira. Olugbemi noted that his tenure built on the solid foundation laid by predecessors, rooted in the tradition of constantly leaning forward into the future.EY in a new report says foreign direct investment inflow in Africa dropped by 50% in 2020 as the continent recorded its worst economic recessions in 50 years. The EY's 11th Africa Attractiveness Report says the broad services sector, including business services, telecoms, media and technology, financial services and consumer, attracted 72% of Africa's FDI. It says the extractive sector, mining, oil and gas accounted for only 4% of FDI inflows in 2020. He noted that Africa, along with the rest of the world, was significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, causing lots of business disruption across industries and sectors. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, has emerged as President of the Great Green Wall Initiative in Africa. Minister of State for Environment, Chief Sharon Ikazo, stated that Nigeria has taken over the presidency of the Great Green Wall in Africa for the next 2 years. She says for the next 2 years, Nigeria and President Buhari will be the president of the Great Green Wall Initiative in Africa. Ikazo expressed optimism that with the commitment of the president on addressing issues of climate change and desertification, a lot will be achieved during his tenure. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry warned that the federal government's deficit financing in 2022 might exceed the projected 6.25 trillion naira due to low public revenue mobilization in the economy. The president of the LCCI, Mrs. Toki Mabogunje, says that Nigeria may not meet the ambitious revenue target of 10.13 trillion naira it set for itself in 2022. She also cautioned the federal government on the country's growing debt profile, which rose to 35.5 trillion naira in June 2021. She stated that Nigeria needs more revenue rather than borrowing to finance its budget, which it could realize by packaging its national assets to attract equity investments that can raise revenues for the government instead of borrowing. The Chamber, however, said that they advised that such borrowings are sourced from the cheapest lenders and tied to fund critical infrastructure that in turn drives the economy to generate more revenue. The Nigerian financial services sector is agog as all is now set for the formal launch of NG Clearing Limited, the first central counterparty in West Africa. The chairman of the company's board of directors, Mr. Oscar Onyema, in a statement says CCP represents the maturity and transition of the Nigerian capital market to a new era of clear possibilities. The company's chief executive officer, Mr. Tapas Das, noted that across the world, CCPs have emerged to strengthen financial markets, propelling them to growth and reinforcing existing layers of market safety. He added that they have left no stone unturned in ensuring that Nigeria's first CCP is positioned to become the most trusted CCP in Africa. Kenya's Nairobi Securities Exchange has launched day trading, allowing investors to buy and sell securities multiple times in a single day to increase liquidity at the bourse. The exchange is popular with foreign investors seeking exposure to East Africa's fast-growing economies. Kiprono Kitoni, the chairman of the board of the NSE, says investors will explore this solution in an effort to hedge risk and increase portfolio returns. Geoffrey Odundo, the chief executive of the board, says the NSE has already seen a boost in its daily trading volumes after it introduced day trading on a trial run. The Deputy Minister of Information, Communication Technology, Dungumuzi Puti, has lamented incessant power cuts in Bulilima in Matabele Land South. Puti revealed that the place has gone for almost 2 months without electricity. The Deputy Minister accused some unnamed government agencies of sabotaging the government's programs. He says the Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services serve a government where the principal does not want nonsense but wants hard work. Finance Minister Mtuli Nsube is under attack from almost all line ministries over the inadequate budget allocations for 2022, with the latest assault coming from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Nsube announced a $927.3 billion budget against a total bid of $2.7 trillion that line ministries had presented in Victoria Falls during a pre-budget seminar. Ministry's Finance Director, Betty Wenjere, says the funds that were allocated can only help them train less teachers than expected. She says the educational budget is not sufficient and only 2,250 teachers will benefit from the CALA training program out of the budget allocated. Minister of Tourism Khalid El Anani discussed with officials of the Spanish Chambers of Trade and Industry as well as officials of major Spanish tourism agents. The minister underlined the state's efforts to resume the tourism movement to Egypt in a safe way in order to guarantee safety and security of the citizens and tourism staff. Anani says the 5 international companies are currently assigned to review condition of health safety in the hotel facilities in Egypt after coordination with the tourism ministries.
We are the wind in the sails of your business. We are your compass. Chart your course towards your targets. Africa Business Radio. Towards a profitable Africa.
Chinese ride-hailing giant DiDi Global has announced plans to take its shares off the New York Stock Exchange and move its listing to Hong Kong. The U.S. market watchdog unveiled tough new rules for Chinese firms that list in America. The company says, following careful research, the company will immediately start the listing on the New York Stock Exchange and start preparations for listing in Hong Kong. DiDi says his board had approved the move, adding that the company will organize a shareholders meeting to vote on the above matter at an appropriate time in the future, following necessary procedures. The RAC Motoring Services Organization says retailers are continuing to put up fuel prices when they should reduce them in line with savings in wholesale oil prices. Oil prices fell by around $10 a barrel last week in response to concerns about the Omicron variant. Retailers added on average another 3.1p to a litre of unleaded petrol and 2.7p to diesel in November. The RAC says this hike in petrol prices was completely unjustified, with large retailers making a shocking profit. The RAC accused supermarket chains who are major fuel retailers such as Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco and Morrison's, saying they should have reduced prices but had instead increased them unnecessarily. Singapore's central bank urged banks to keep their finances strong and resilient to shocks in case of an abrupt rise in unemployment and business insolvencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Monetary Authority of Singapore says there remained a risk of a further deterioration in the ability of individuals and companies to repay debt if the pandemic continued to cause prolonged disruptions to economic activities. MAS says unemployment and business insolvencies could in turn rise abruptly. It added the banks should therefore continue to remain prudent in managing their balance sheets to ensure that their capital positions remain robust and resilient to shocks as they continue to support the economy through the later stages of the recovery from the pandemic. Alibaba Group Holding Limited says it was reorganizing its international and domestic e-commerce businesses and will appoint a new chief financial officer. The changes come as Alibaba faces headwinds on multiple fronts, including increased competition, a slowing economy, and a regulatory crackdown. Alibaba says it will form 2 new units to house its main e-commerce business, International Digital Commerce and China Digital Commerce, in a bid to become more agile and accelerate growth. The company's Deputy Chief Financial Officer, Toby Zhou, will succeed Maggie Wu as its Chief Financial Officer from April. His appointment was described as part of the company's leadership succession plan. Before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. E-Naira to deepen financial inclusion. Buhari emerged president of Africa's Great Green Wall. Nairobi Securities Exchange launches day trading to boost liquidity. Alibaba to revamp e-commerce business. That was the news at this time on Africa Business Radio. You can continue to listen live online at www.africabusinessradio.com or via a mobile app. I am Chukunonso Modi and thank you for listening.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.